Dan,
Yes.
it is a pleasure to see you again now in Milano, Italy.
Yes.
And because we're in Italy, I have to ask you, what is your outlook on the Italian markets?
I'm bullish on the Italian markets. I know a lot of people feel concerned. They recently dropped some of the growth expectations, but I don't feel hampered by that. I think some of the political issues that created uncertainties quieted down. I think the foundation for further growth is in place. If you look at the interest rates on their financial instruments, their treasuries, it's really reflected in terms of its lower levels from what it was just a few years ago. So I think there's the right pieces in place that longer term I am bullish on the Italian marketplace, their stock market, the mid.
What about Italian commodity markets? We know that there were some new contracts introduced, and that was the most popular commodity in Italy, durum wheat. What is the story with that contract?
Well, durum wheat's really an interesting product because it is a very specialized wheat contract. Durum wheat is what we use for pasta and breads and things like that.
Famous Italian
and
pasta.
as you know, that's very important here,
Yes.
which is wonderful. Yeah. In fact, we're at the exchange where that contract was created.
Yes.
The challenges for a new contract like that in an industry that didn't have it before, but does have the risk. In other words, you don't need that contract if durum wheat's not volatile. The fact is, durum wheat is volatile. So therefore, there is a need for the futures contract.
What causes its volatility?
The normal variations throughout the harvest and growth cycle, the planting. For a product like that, what you think you're going to get may not be what you get in terms of harvest.
Right.
So the result is that world demand may be changing. That has an impact. So there's a multitude of issues that come into play on it. So it definitely has the price volatility. I think what's lagging from what I've seen is the critical industry support. I don't think the industry is totally bought into it yet in the sense of the value of what it can offer them. So, and that takes time.
So is it the durum wheat that is grown only in Italy, or it's grown everywhere in the world?
Well, I don't know about everywhere, but for example, in parts of Canada they have durum wheat. In the United States, we have in the north part of our country, we have some durum wheat growing areas. Any country that's going to consume breads or pastas would want to have some of that product there. So it is widely grown, but not necessarily in all areas.
So the more pasta we eat, the better the contracts will do on
Well,
the market.
maybe.
Well,
I think I'm
I
doing
love
my
Italian
share.
pasta. Yes. What about agricultural commodities in general? Are you bearish on them?
Well, I think if we look at the U.S. marketplace,
Yes.
and to look at that, we really need to think about the world in terms of where growth is and demand. But let's start with the United States. Right now, where I live, in the Midwest part of the United States, we're coming into an area of time that's critical because now we're going to see planting intentions. So what do farmers think they want to put in the ground? And what products? Is it soybeans? Is it corn? Is it wheat? So that becomes the first thing that you and I should follow. The next thing we want to see is what do they actually get in the ground? Because each one of those has a growth cycle.
And it depends on...
When they plant it.
I see.
And the challenge is, Olga, is that if we plant late,
Yes.
for example, corn, because there's a lot of subsoil moisture, there's a lot of wet fields, they can't put the equipment in the fields, therefore they can't plant, which delays the planting. And at some point, they have to say, you know something, I can't plant corn. I'm going to have to plant beans, or I'm going to plant something else.
But I have to quickly buy the seeds
They would-
and rush orders, do the rush
Exact-
orders.
Exactly right. So as they see that planting window is shortening, even though there are some corn, some product that they can plant with a shorter growing cycle, in general, that forces change. So what we see at the beginning when they said, I think I'm going to plant this many acres, well, that may not be the case. So then one issue is that how many acres did they actually plant? The next thing will be for us to watch, and these are going to happen over the next few months, would be how much has actually started to come up, all right?
Yes.
So do we see the product performing to the expectations everyone's looking for? Is it on target in terms of its growth cycle? And then do we have weather to support it? And each product has critical times.
Has its own weather.
Exactly right. So, for example, soybeans in the United States, in the Midwest, August is a critical time. They can grow like a weed before that, but when it comes to the first couple of weeks in August, they need a certain amount of moisture to get the flowers to bloom, which determines how many pods and how many beans they're going to get, and the size. Last year we had ideal conditions for them, but is that going to happen this year?
Hopefully it will.
So we'll see. But that's what we're going to be looking